What is up, everybody? Here's part 19 of building Nasty Love. So today's video should be quite a bit longer than usual because I'm going to try to fit a lot more parts installations into this video because I got a lot more parts for the truck and I really want to get moving on this build. So here are some of the parts that we got. We got a new master cylinder. This old one is leaking and rusty. I'm not really sure I can trust that with how much power we're going to be putting out of the truck. I also got a new electronic gas pedal. This is for the drive-by-wire. Hopefully this thing isn't a piece of junk. It is made in China, so we'll see. I thought it said it was a Dorman part, maybe not. We have this EV1 harness to run our Bosch fuel injectors with the Holley EFI kit. We have some random sensors, bolts, knock sensors, all sorts of stuff for the engine. And we also have the gasket kit here. And last but certainly not least, we got the new tires. And now what tires are we going to be running on the truck? These here, these Goodyear Eagles. Obviously, we're not going to be really running these on the street. I might drive it around on the street, but I'm also going to get a new set of wheels and tires just for driving on the street. This is honestly more for aesthetics. I know it's a very expensive aesthetics mod, kind of. But anytime that I do road course racing with the truck or any type of drag racing or anything like that, these are going to be the tires that I'm going to use. So I am going to get some good use out of them. But as you can see, those tires are not mounted on the wheels. And here are the wheels that we have for the truck. I'm going to have to bring these to my work and mount those on those. So let's get that done. I almost forgot to mention, we're not going to be trying to install all of these parts today. I obviously don't have the engine back from the machine shop yet, which a lot of these parts that I have need to go on the engine. So we can't install them. But what we are going to try to install today is the brake master cylinder, the gas pedal, the clutch pedal assembly, and the master cylinder. I'm also going to be trying to tie up the rear brakes and putting the wheels and tires on the truck if I can find lug nuts. I haven't been able to find any locally for whatever reason. But that is the goal for today. So if you'll notice here, we have the intake for the truck. It is a Trailblazer Super Sport intake. I haven't shown any of this in the videos yet because I've been trying to get the correct fuel rails and the correct mounts so that I can mount some aftermarket fuel rails with these, which are my EV1 Bosch 36 pound-hour injectors. So the problem I've been having, every single fuel rail kit that I've ordered does not fit these larger injectors because they are larger than stock, and most of these fuel rail kits go for the stock size injectors. I finally ended up going with this Holley kit, which the Holley rep told me this was for the larger EV and style injectors. He was wrong. They are not. You also have to order these, which are adapter brackets to run the larger injectors. And these bad boys right here were $70 just for these 3 sets of brackets. So let's try to get this installed. Hopefully these are finally the right parts because this has taken me weeks to try to get aftermarket fuel rails with these aftermarket injectors. I think we finally have the right brackets. We've got one injector fully installed here. We're going to line this up and see if that works. So it does look like with this injector fully installed that these are going to be the right brackets, which is good because this has been going on for probably about 2 or 3 weeks now of me trying to get the right fuel rails to match these injectors to make everything fit. So that's good. I'm going to pull this back off, get the rest of these injectors installed with their respective clips, and then get the rest of the brackets on, tightened down, and get everything tidied up with this intake. Alright, so as you guys see here, I got both of the fuel rails installed on the intake manifold. Now I want to put on my EV1 injector harness, which I'm a little bit confused with this because it's numbered 5, 6, 7, 8. And I believe Chevys go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, just like most manufacturers do, opposing each next order cylinder. But this says cylinder 1. I know that cylinder 1 is on this side of the intake manifold. So I'm just going to plug them in that way and I'll look it up later. If I'm incorrect, then I'll take this back off and put it on correctly. Hopefully there wasn't a manufacturing error with the harness. I'm not super familiar with Chevy engines because I am a Subaru technician. But we're going to put this harness on, and I'll do some research later on. If it's incorrect, then I'll get it fixed. Alright guys, there you have it. Here is the fuel rails installed. We've got the new injectors, the new injector harness, the new eBay throttle body and throttle body spacer. And we've got all this set up and it is starting to look really good. This is actually a really nice, well-made harness. I'm just not sure if maybe it was labeled incorrectly and maybe there's a mishap at the factory, or maybe that's just how they label their harnesses. Although I know for a fact that this is cylinder 1. And as I said before, I'm not positive. It could go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 on Chevys. I don't really know. I will have to do some research. So that's all I have for this project. Now let's move on to the next project. Alright everybody, it is the next day. I have the wheels and tires mounted, but not balanced. We didn't have the right tool to balance these wheels at my work. But I got a little anxious after work, and I might have done something. That is right. I installed one wheel and tire, and look at that fitment. This is with the weight on the truck. It is up out off of the jack stand. So this is the fitment that we're really going for with the truck. This is definitely not the rear end setup that I'm going to stay with for the truck. Eventually I want to go 4-link or maybe a 3-link. Not quite sure yet, but we're going to try to duplicate this fitment. I'm extremely happy with the amount of poke and how this all looks. So let's get the rest of the wheels and tires out of the back of my truck and then get them on the Chevy LUV and get it on the ground. Alright, we got all these bad boys out of the back of my Chevy. Now let's get them on the LUV. All right, there we go. Now let's do the same thing to the other side. Alright, so I have the truck all the way on the ground here. I took the toolbox out of the back, and that gave us a little more clearance, but this thing is just looking good. I tell you what, I can't wait to get the rest of the body done, get the suspension all done and figured out once I have the new drivetrain in. But just for shits and giggles, as of right now, I'm going to lower the front torsion bars as low as I can, just to bring this front end down. Even though I don't think it can go much more, I'm definitely going to have to cut the fenders here as well because we have some scrubbing issues on the sides. So we'll do that in a later video, but as of right now, I'm going to get this thing lowered as much as I can and see how it looks. Alright, so I'm pretty satisfied with the ride height right now. We're using my hand here as a gauge up to the knuckles in the front for fitment, and up to the knuckles in the front for fitment on the other side. Obviously, this is not how the truck is going to ride when it's all said and done, but I just want it to look nice sitting in the garage, you know. So, we've actually got a little more fitment in the rear than we do in the front. I might level that out even a little more. but this thing is starting to look pretty good. I'm getting really excited, but enough of this fitment stuff. It doesn't really matter a whole lot because we got to work on getting this stuff in the truck. What is up, everybody? It is actually a new day today. All I had time for yesterday was putting the wheels and tires on the truck, but today we're going to finally install the brake master cylinder, the clutch master cylinder, the gas pedal, and the clutch pedal. But first, I need to go get some tools. I need to go grab a hole saw from the store so that I can install this. And I need to buy some fittings at the hardware store or at the auto parts store so that I can install some banjo bolts on the rear calipers. And then we can finish making the rear brake lines and put this all together, get the brakes bled, and we should have working brakes with the truck. So let's get that done. All right, so we are back from the auto parts store and the hardware store. I have a hole saw here. We are going to go figure out exactly where this needs to go and then drill the hole for it and get it all mounted up. So we're just gonna find the center point of this hole, punch it, and then drill it out. That's pretty close to center. There we go. That was pretty much almost dead on center. We were obviously a little far this way, but I am happy with that. So let's go grab the master cylinder and put it up here and see where we're going to mark for the holes. And you know, I find it kind of funny that this just so happened to have almost the exact template that I needed to mount this. Now let's grab a normal drill bit and drill those out. All right, now we're gonna see how the clutch pedal assembly fits in there. And look at that, that is literally a perfect fit. I couldn't have wanted this to go any better. All right, now I'm gonna go on the other side and clean up the other ends of those holes, maybe put a little bit of spray paint on them so they don't rust. All right, clean those up on the outside. Now we're just gonna spray this with a little bit of paint. Not pretty, but hopefully it'll prevent rust. So while that paint dries a little bit, we're gonna remove this gas pedal to make room for the one for the drive-by-wire system. So all we have to do is remove a cotter pin right here. This pin slides out and then the pedal assembly itself comes right out. And just like that, our pedal assembly is out. So I've changed my mind here a little bit. I was gonna put the pedal over here, but this seems like a more logical location where the old pedal was. And I have some flat metal to mount this to right there. There's a divot. So I got this here pretty well lines up, although I need to cut off this here and cut out a little notch out of there so that we can fit this pedal. So let's get to doing that. All right, so fast forward a little bit. I had to run to the hardware store and get some more bolts, washers and stuff so that I can mount this pedal. But I got the holes drilled. I just put a little bit of paint on there so it doesn't rust. So let's mount that pedal up. All right, and that'll just stay there. We're gonna go to the other side and put on the nuts and washers. All right, and that is one gas pedal installed. Now time to finish up that clutch pedal install. So this should be pretty simple. I just put my pedal through just like that. Might have to get something to hold that there, but there we go. Then I'll go on the other side, put in the master cylinder, and we'll get it all tightened down. All right, now hopefully this thing doesn't just like fall through here. And look at that, that was like perfect alignment right there. Literally in the perfect spot. Now we put on our locking nuts and washers. 1 million spanner flips later. And just like that, we have one installed master cylinder. Now we're gonna go inside, adjust the pedal distance, and put the pedal pad on. All right, so we're just gonna put this on here. Nope, try to thread this on. That's actually probably right about where we want it. So I'm gonna tighten up this jam nut here, and then we're gonna put the pedal pad on, and the pedals are complete after that. And there we go, that is one pedal pad installed. And that also means we now have every pedal installed in the truck. Now we're gonna go install the master cylinder, get the lines bent for that, and then we'll work on the rear brakes. All right, so here we have our new master cylinder. We are going to put this on the booster and bend our lines before bench bleeding this. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, so we're just gonna put this on here. Just like that. And I can already see this line is gonna be far too short, so we're gonna have to take this one back out. Good thing I have a ton of spare line, but we're gonna bend this one up and get it ran right to there. So we just need to bend this right around. Looks like we can use this line at least for the rears, and then we will have to get another line for the fronts. All right, so I cut a new piece of line off the giant piece that I had. So we got this in here. We're gonna bend this up. All right, now I'm gonna mark that with a Sharpie and cut that piece. All right, so now I'm going to make a flare. But now let's tighten this down. And that is one part of the double flare. This would technically be called a bubble flare. And then we tighten this back down and squish it down again. And that makes us a double flare. And just like that, we have one flare done. Okay, so now we can put this line back on, test the fitment, and then we will take the master cylinder back off and bench bleed it. I've got my .4 brake fluid here. Pour a little bit in each one. Just enough to bleed it. We have that pretty much bled. So we're just gonna leave that there. It's probably gonna drip a little bit, and we're gonna make the rear brake lines now. So I'm gonna put these brake lines on the rear calipers, and then we're gonna make some hard lines to go from here to the junction. So we'll have to put like a self-tapping screw into the lift block here so we can keep this brake line out of the way of everything. So now we're gonna go do the same process on the other side. So we're gonna do the same thing over here. We're just gonna install this brake line, and then we can make our hard lines after we get both of these brake lines on. And there we go, perfectly mounted. Everything is tucked up out of the way. We don't have any interfering parts, and we're not gonna get anything rubbing through now. So now we're gonna do the same thing to the other side. I'm actually pretty satisfied with how that looks. So let's go do that to the other side, and we'll call this good, and then we'll make our hard lines. Not gonna lie, it looks better than I thought it would. I mean, I'm sure somebody's gonna call me a hack for putting this in my aluminum lift block on my truck that's supposed to be about 450 wheel. But don't worry, once we go 4-link, which after the truck is running and driving, we're gonna go 4-link or 3-link. This will not be like this. We'll make a much better setup for the truck, and everything will be hunky-dory. And that is installed just about as good as it gets. So I got this line in here. This is just the leftover line that we couldn't use, that was too short for the master. And it looks like we just got to cut off probably about 2 or 3 inches off of there, and we're good to go. Make a new flare on the end of this piece. And then for the other side, we are going to just wrap under the pumpkin here, come up to here, and go around to that line over there. All right, so we're gonna do the same thing here that we did with the last flare that we made. Okay, we are halfway done. And there you have it, that's one completed flare. I'm gonna clean this up and then we'll get it on the truck. We're gonna get this line just installed. And I know it's a bit backwoods, but we're just gonna hold on to it with some vice grips, or some channel locks, sorry, and tighten this down. Now, we put this into our junction block here, do the same thing. We will probably have to just zip tie that for now. I have to order the clamps that hold these to the actual housing. Still have yet to do that, but we'll have a clamp that goes right there that holds us to the housing. For now, we're just gonna run a zip tie till I can get those in the mail. All right, so now we are going to work on bending this line so that we can cut it to length so that we can finish up this brake system. Let's see, is that enough of a bend? Okay. Alright, so I think we're actually just going to go under the axle and straight to here. I was going to go over top, but I believe that's just overcomplicating things. We're just going to make a bend probably right about there. We're going to cut it there, make a new flare, and the rear brake line should be done after that. And there you have it. The rear brake lines are complete. All we need to do now is get some hangers, some ways to attach these to the actual axle housing. I may even weld some tabs on that I can bolt some clamps to hold these, but for now it'll hold until the truck is running. So now we're just going to go up to the front, put the new master cylinder on, and then bleed all these brakes. Alright, so we've got our master cylinder here. We're just going to slide this bad boy on. Just like that. I'm going to grab some nuts and washers, get that thing tightened down. And we are going to install our new lines. And there you have it. That is one master cylinder installed with new brake lines. So, next step now is to bleed our brakes. We're going to go ahead and fill these reservoirs up, crack the rear bleeders to start, bleed those, and then lift the truck up and do the fronts. I apologize for the noise of the compressor and the noise of this vacuum bleeder, but we are going to get these brakes bled. So we're going to crack this loose, turn on the vacuum bleeder, and it should suck out all the air. I might need to manually bleed it also, but we're going to try this and see how it feels. All right, so the rear and front brakes are bled. We now have pressure in the pedal and we have the rear lines made. That means the brake system is done. That also means we have all 3 pedals mounted in the truck. The only one that's currently working, of course, is the brake pedal. The rest are soon to come. We still need to get the engine in, get all that hooked up before either of these 2 are gonna be useful. But there it is, a brand new master cylinder with my refreshed brake booster and a new clutch master cylinder. This thing looks awesome. I'm really excited to get the truck on the ground and get the engine in, get it running and driving, because I'm sure this thing is gonna stop really well. Now I'm gonna get the wheels and tires back on this thing and I'm gonna get it lowered on the ground because we're not gonna work on it for a little while. I don't necessarily want it on a jack stand, so let's do that.
That's the stance you need right there.
Raked AF. All right, there she is back on the ground, new parts installed, and I just can't get over how good this thing looks now. But before we get too far, we gotta check some things off the list here. Just like new master cylinder, front brake lines, we bled the system, new rear lines, we still have to bed in the pads. But hey, that is a lot of things marked off the list, and now this truck has fully functioning brakes. So thank you guys for watching today's video. Be sure to subscribe, hit the thumbs up. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell. And guys, let's get to building nasty love.